Hello, this is Dead Hamster, and this is Chapter 3 for the new video tutorial series covering version 5 of the Tarmac editing kit. In this chapter, we'll cover preparing the model for export. There's a few steps that we have to take as far as splitting the model apart and preparing some of the individual parts. So, we have our model from Chapter 2 with our textures and UV maps applied, as well as some vert shading for this dark area. Now with Mario Kart 64, the level is split into multiple parts, and this is to facilitate render viewing and culling, so that we don't have to draw the entire geometry at once. In general, you should be trying to draw no more than about 1,200 to 1,500 faces at a time, and this is to help make sure that multiplayer mode in console on an actual N64 runs without too much slowdown. There's a few tricks you can do as far as splitting the level apart and splitting objects into smaller objects to turn them on and off depending on what section you're in, and that's kind of what we're going to go over in this chapter here. So for this model, with only being 300 faces, we really don't need to split it. I'm still going to split it up into two parts just to showcase what this process is, but for something this small, you really could just make it one single section. We have a script, a Mac script, as well as a Blender variant that you can use to help make things a little bit easier. I'm going to start by naming that my master course. Now in this case, I'm going to make two sections, so I'm going to put a 2 in this box. What this script does, it creates cubes underneath the level. You may have to do this manually for Blender or for your editing kit. The cubes are named section 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, depending on how many you need. And then another cube called course master objects. The cubes here will be assigned geometry for the surface objects, and the course master objects cube will be assigned geometry that is render only. So looking at our course here, we need to make a couple copies. So we're going to make a copy called surface, and this will be for the collision, just what you collide with, what items like shells will collide with. So for this, we won't actually include this top part here. That's going to remove some of the geometry that we won't need to draw. And now we're going to split it into two parts. So I'm going to make this section 1 and this part section 2. And so section 1, I'm going to make a child of the box section 1 underneath the level. So all this geometry is now linked. That's another term for it. You can use the select and link to section 1. And all of this will be a child of section 2. We're then going to take the objects and split them by material. Each surface geometry needs to be given an ID so that the game knows what type of surface it is. For example, the road has different properties than when you're driving on the grass, and so the game needs to be able to tell those two things apart. Again, I have a script that will split these. The last step is to name them something unique, starting again with that ID. So in this case, we're going to select the grass. The ID for grass, there's a list of all of these, and you can also set them in the editing tool later, but the ID for grass I know is 8. I again have a script. I'm just going to hit the auto part button. This names the objects 8 underscore and then a random string. It can be, in this case, part 0, part 1. It can be 8 grass A, 8 grass B. It can be 8 banana, 8 cucumber. It doesn't matter what words you put into there as long as they're unique. We're going to do the same thing for the wall. The wall's surface ID for vertical walls is 255. Again, part 0, part 1. And then the road is material 1, part 0 and part 1. That's it for the surface geometry. We've now split them into two different parts. So when I'm driving on this area, it'll be in section 1. And when I drive on this area, I'll be in section 2. And there will be a different list of objects to draw based on which section you're in. This makes it a little bit easier again to split up the level and to determine which objects you're going to draw depending on what part of the level you're in. We will take our original course with everything in it, and we're going to make that a child of course master objects, which we will unhide now. This also needs to be split by material. So I'm going to run my same script again. And you can see all the materials, including the ones for the screen. Every object only has one set of textures used on that object. The way that we optimize the game, we can't use more than one texture per object, so we do have to split them up this way. From here, I'm actually going to split these just a bit further. I'm going to take these and attach that. Make them children again. And then I'm going to take these and do the same thing. Have a typo there, but that's okay. I'm not worried about our spelling. As long as everything is unique. And again, as long as everything is unique. So we're going to do something obnoxious just to show off. So there we go. We have all of our objects separated. We have our surface lined up. What we now need to do is make the AI paths and lay out some item boxes and other objects in the course. That's going to be our paths and objects. We're going to hit the create button and it will create a new series of boxes. Just like with course master objects and section 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, there's a new set of cubes that have been created way down underneath the course. These are called objects dash and then either item blocks, red coins, piranha plants, or trees. And depending on which object is which object it represents. There's also another cube called course paths that has a spline, and this will be used for the AI paths. We are going to delete the default spline, and we're going to create our own. So going to the line tool, and we're just going to click a few dots and make our path like this. Want to close it back up. So we have our, we're going to move it up now so that it is even with the ground, roughly. We have our spline. We want the points to be roughly 20 units apart. So we're going to even this part out here. And there's something in 3ds Max called normalized spline. I'm not sure what there may be in Blender that's similar. You can space the points out so that they're 20 units apart. And then you just have to make sure that there's not more than 800 total path markers. That is the current limit. You can't have more than 800. So you may have to space them out further in order to accommodate that limit. We're going to take that, make it a child of course paths. Now let's look at the trees and other objects and see where those are. So you can see quite a few of these underneath the level. We'll take our tree and pull it up here. Now we're going to make a few clones of it to place trees throughout the level. Take our piranha plant and we will place a few of those as well. And then our item blocks, which is probably the most important. whether that's even with the ground or else you won't be able to pick them up. I've made that mistake in many courses. Had to go back and fix several. And then space a few across like that. We'll put a few sets of those in, so we'll put maybe a set here, and a set right here that will rotate a little bit. So we got our 3 sets of item boxes. The red coins we won't do for this level. We'll place them, but I don't believe the code that I have is quite running them yet. I still need to tweak that. So we're just, like I said, we're not going to place them. We'll do that in, well, you could review other tutorials, or again, just place them as you would the item blocks. You place up to 8 red coins throughout the level. Each one gives you a small speed boost. Collecting all 8 will give you a star boost. It's a sort of gimmick or Easter egg mode. It can be an additional challenge for time trials. Place them again throughout the level wherever you would like to, and they will draw up with the final code ready to go. With all of those things set, we are ready to export. So we are going to export to an Fbx format. Other formats may be supported. I believe that the GLBTF or whatever the new fancy format is. I've only tested Fbx thoroughly. That is the one that I would recommend doing. So we're going to do export like that, and we will, give me just a moment. And just to showcase for our next chapter what we'll be doing, we will have everything set to load up the level in our editing kit. Oh, I didn't export almost everything. One last thing, we need to hit the export button on our paths and objects now that we've exported the Fbx file. And in the same folder, or wherever you'd like to put it, we're going to export an OK64.pop file. When the course is loaded, it needs to load both the Fbx and then the pop file here. And after loading both of those, you can see our level has loaded here. And I can turn on textured mode so that we can see what it'll actually look like. And here we are. With objects, we can see our trees and item blocks, everything else that we've placed. We'll go over all of this again in detail for Chapter 4. Want to thank everybody for tuning in, and as always, until next time, you guys take care.